forget the name of it. It was a book, and they made it into a TV show. I think it was called Numbers, and it was this thing about people being, essentially, the recycling of the soul, but be reminded, essentially. That's something like being reminded, like, look, you've got something to do, and then they're like, it was that knowing, and then taking the knowledge forward as well. Like, going from being a 70-year-old man to an 8-year-old girl, but with the man's mind inside the 8-year-old girl kind of thing, which is the same basically thing, isn't it? It's the same basic concept.
Yeah.
Did you see that story?
Yeah, I think that one.
Go on, sorry.
Story? No, you go ahead. Which story?
I was just going to say the story of the kid, and he's on the bus. I forget where it is, and it, again, could be bullshit, but I don't think it is. He was on the bus, I think, and he said, I think he's maybe like 4 or 5. He's like, oh, that's the guy that killed me. The guy on the bus.
I heard that.
He's like,
yeah,
and he's like, yeah, I can show you where I am. And they go and they find this body, and some guy's been clocked over the head, and it turned out to be the fella, and they're like, what the fuck?
Yeah, I've heard of that.
There's a lot more to it all, but I do think as you say, the exploration of contacting these thought forms, and that's the stuff that's been suppressed and kept from us. As you say, all the research that they've done with the parapsychology, they've kept it completely hidden from us. But now we are just rediscovering it. But there must be so many ways to accelerate it. I keep coming back to it about the flotation tanks, the brain entrainment technology. I'm sure there's brain entrainment lights, which, you can recreate that technology for a fraction of the cost. And I'm sure that stuff, like I said, they've managed to crack into a certain frequency that does invoke these certain states, and they've just patented it and done their thing with it. But that's cool. That's the society we live in. But like, if it was in Shenzhen, that would just be open source. The next people will be jumping on, right, you've created that, right, now create something else, create the next best thing, and let other people modify and improve upon your previous creation. Do you get what I mean? And it's like, those brain entrainment lights, I'm sure they can properly get you into some right states of mind where you can properly communicate with these thought forms in different variations.
Yeah, there's this doctor. It's an interesting video. It's where I got a lot of the verbiage for how I speak to my DNA in terms of using scalar verbiage. It's this doctor. He's got this interesting video. I think I linked it to you once, where he developed a machine called the Rasha machine. And he said it was basically originally built by DARPA, and that he worked closely with DARPA and the CIA to build this machine. And it is a machine that is capable of sending and receiving scalar frequencies, and that he's been able to use it to cure anybody of anything. He's the one that says the machine has helped him become impervious to 5G. That's where I got the language from. And what's interesting is a buddy of mine contacted him. He got invited to this conference in Reno, and I was supposed to go, but my buddy fucked up and gave me the wrong date, so I bought tickets for the wrong weekend. But he ended up going, and he got hooked up to the machine. He did a few sessions, and he said, he got there on like a Thursday. So he said Friday he did it, was awesome. Saturday he did it, and then like Saturday night they all went out, and they're with Dr. Jeer and his colleagues or whatever, and he said they were getting along really well, and then something about Antarctica came up, and my buddy made a comment about what he knew about Antarctica, about it being like the central hub where like species come together. And he said something about them having to bring their own water because the water on Earth is just so polluted. And he said Dr. Jeer just immediately started acting really weird and then just left and didn't even say goodbye or anything. And then he was supposed to do a session the next day. So he did this session the next day. He said that Dr. Jeer didn't even show up. It was one of the other colleagues. They did a couple normal ones, but then he said the guy suddenly was like, okay, you've got one more session. And my buddy was like, well, what frequency is this? What am I listening to? And he's like, oh, just, it's, I don't know. It's one of the other, it's some frequency. And my buddy was like, what the fuck? He's like, he's just all of a sudden put on this frequency, wouldn't tell him what it was, acted weird about it, like, oh, I don't know what it is, it's just some frequency. Whereas he knew all the other ones, all of a sudden he doesn't know this one. He said a minute into it, he had to take the headphones off. He's like, it was fucking with me. And it made me wonder if, because Dr. Jeer was bragging about, he said he was bragging about his CIA contacts and DARPA contacts and the friends he's helped, you know, within the agencies. And then when he mentions this stuff about Antarctica, he said it was just a weird energy. And the next day, he's like, they tried to fucking do something to me. He's like, they tried to use the Rosh machine against me to do something. And then he had a weird fucking dream about like a snake, like a giant snake or a reptilian just like attacking him. And it was really crazy was that night, that Sunday night, I had a dream of a giant snake. It was like a building-sized snake, and it was like a cobra, but it like didn't look like a cobra. And so we both had these like snake dreams. And he definitely thinks that like they tried to fucking do something to him. Like they tried to maybe like put a tracker in him or something like that. And it's funny because I was supposed to go out there and try this machine out. Like I was dying to try this machine out because in his video, he claims that this is how the CIA makes metahumans using the Rosh machine, because they can use the Rosh machine to unlock DNA strands and do a bunch of shit. And I was like, fuck yeah, I can't wait to try this thing. And then just some weird fluke of, oh, I got the wrong weekend. And suddenly I wasn't going. It was like, in a weird way, maybe I just wasn't meant to go.
The universe conspires in its own ways, yes, for sure. Yeah, that sounds fucked up. I've not even used that Rosh machine, or perhaps I haven't, it just didn't stick. It'll probably, if I read it, it might refresh me. But
you can go to the website. It's just like rasha.com, but you know, he really explains scalar, and there's a lot of interesting information, and he's written some interesting papers about how DNA really works, and it's very informative. But again, yeah, it seems to be tainted by DARPA and the CIA.
They always get their little sticky fingers into everything, don't they? Have you caught up with Mike Emery's bubble tech?
Oh,
he talks about that being scalar.
Yeah, I'm a part of that group. Bubble tech is more like a more advanced version of Organite. Organite's kind of like the base foundation of bubble tech, but basically bubble tech is like Organite on steroids. I'm a part of that group. I just haven't. I really should maybe try making my own. I just haven't really bothered, but it's interesting stuff. Yeah, these people are like making these devices and then digging them into like places in their city. Like they'll go and plant them in different places in the city. These things are like Chemtrailbusters. They negate 5G. They just harmonize everything. They fuck all that shit up.
So it seems to go. I've yet to see any videos. I was hoping someone would make one and show the meter, you know, the actual meter going up and down with the bubble tech in the vicinity, but I've yet to find one. So I've not yet built one myself, but it does interest me. Yeah.
No, I've heard that's how Chemtrailbusters are made. Like I know there's a guy that specializes in making Chemtrailbusters, and he basically uses bubble tech to do it. And he shows how like he installs these things, and chemtrails just don't work anymore in that area. Like in the sky above it, like they just don't ever form.
So just blue skies.
Yeah, it's like but it's just in that area, like just that little pocket of sky.
And do they record it?
I don't know. I don't think I've seen recordings of it. Just more like testimony.
Yeah, that's all I've seen. I've seen lots of testimony, but I've seen any. And I'm just, you know me, brother. I'm cynical to the death. But yeah, that's why I've not. I don't think it's super expensive, is it? But it's a couple of quid to build a proper one. Probably about 100 quid.
Probably, yeah. Probably to get the right materials. Yeah, it's just not something I've really sat down to try and delve into. And
something that came across my. Sorry about that. Something that came across my path only a couple of weeks back was shungite beehives. And apparently these guys have been using shungite in their beehives, and they've gone from like 30 or 50,000 to a few million. With like, because there's a lot of colony collapse apparently with a lot of disease and all that. But with these shungite beehives, they're claiming that they've got 100% survival rate, and they've massively increased. So that was an interesting one because I've used shungite. I do rate it for like cleaning the water and stuff. I've got a couple of rods I use, but shungite beehives, because you've seen the patterns on me for Walmart and Amazon for their drone bees, and that's, we don't want Monsanto aluminium plants and fucking drone bees pollinating them, but yeah, that might be something to look into for a few people if they're able to.
I've heard a lot about shungite. People recommend shungite for EMF protection and water purification. No, shungite's definitely legit for sure.
Yeah, correct.
That makes sense with the beehive thing. I can totally see that.
Yeah, interesting. I'll have to really kind of dig a bit more deeper into it and do a bit more research to check the veracity of the claims. But that's something I'll definitely want to look into if it is, 100% legit. That is, because some people are having different results, but that might be due to the shungite. Did you know the best way you can test it is you can put a current through it? That's how you know it's real shungite.
Oh, no, I didn't know that.
Yeah, worth knowing.
No, I've been needing to get my hands on some. I've got a lot of different crystals, but I don't have shungite.
Yeah, get on it. It's well worth getting some if you can. I think it's all the rage at the moment. People are getting on it. People are kind of wising up to a lot of these things for the protection, the orgone, the bubble tech. My mate was going to build a not a Rife chamber. Who was the other fella built the chambers? I can't think of his name now.
I think that was Wilhelm Reich, but I know Reich.
Yes, Wilhelm Reich. Yeah, that's right. There's chambers. He's going to build one of those. Do you know much about that?
Yeah, he's the one that created Organite. He's the one that figured it out.
That's why I thought of it. Yeah, loose connections coming together.
Yeah, that would be cool. I would love to experience like a chamber like that or something. That'd be badass. With this, I kind of figured with this, we're trying to detox ourselves. We're trying to surround ourselves with orgonite or shungite or crystals and plants. I feel like we're looking for ways to protect ourselves and defend ourselves. But what if all that goes away? That's one of the reasons why, I'm trying to develop this meditation, is because I'm positive that the time is coming when you will be stripped of all of that. And so I want to develop a way of making myself just biologically immune without having to need orgonite or shungite or any of these things, like to be able to just be impervious to it. And I would love to be able to feed off of it, not just reflect the distorted electromagnetic frequencies, not just reflect 5G or reflect scalar, but to be able to soak it in and it becomes my food. I would love to, a protest breaks out, military comes in with sound weapons, they start beaming these sound weapons. I'd love to be the guy that just walks into it walking towards it, getting stronger as I walk towards it, You're just making me stronger, bro.
I can absolutely see how it could work. It's like sun gazing. But it's that thing, it's programmable, this thing of that guy who went, years and years without food and water, the body is capable of so much more.
Yeah, just sun gaze.
Yeah, and like the Wim Hof stuff as well.
A lot about sun gazing. Yeah, I just can't get up at dawn. I can't get up that early. I'd love to try it, but that's my night's off. I go to bed at 4 or 5 in the morning. I can't.
Yeah, evening sun's good as well. The old sunsets, but yeah, it is. That's what kind of kept me going, because when I was locked up in the solitary confinement, the sun would come up and I would literally sit there for however long. It was only probably 3 or 4 hours that you'd get it because of the buildings, but just sit there literally staring at the sun. That's what kept me going. Are you familiar with Harry Martadine? My brother Harry? Holistic Health of Harry. Yeah, he's one of the guys who got me into it. He's just tried everything. He's doing all the urine therapy and stuff. He's doing all sorts. But yeah, the understanding that urine is not a waste product and you can actually cycle it around and all these different things. That's the whole fountain of youth. Yeah, sounds fucking frank. But if you're actually living, if you know this thing of like not needing food, if you're feeding off the Wi-Fi, then you don't need to eat food, would you?
No.
So maybe in Tartaria, where all those Tartarian buildings were, there were no toilets. There were these massive buildings, but there were no toilets. And then also you think about the churches and the cathedrals with the organs for the retuning. If it was the free energy, which they say it was, there was free energy in all the buildings and free energy on all the building tops, the antiquitech as they call it. And perhaps it was just free energy being buzzed around, and people were actually just also using their bodies to feed off the free energy. Who knows? You might have tapped into something there, brother, with all your research, all the strings you put together. That's the conclusion you've come to put an experiment together. And fuck me, one experiment it is, bro. And you've allowed me to have a few thoughts and pull some threads together as well. The same thing. It's like, yeah, the Tartaria thing, that could well have been it. That could have been the reason why they didn't have toilets, because they weren't eating like we are. They've just turned us into consumers, haven't they? Just consumer fucking slugs.
Wow. That's interesting. I didn't think of that. Like feeding off of sound.
Just a thought. And then, yeah, when you get out of balance, you would go to the cathedrals, and then, they'd play those frequencies through those massive resonant buildings to just reset the old avatar back to good. Yeah.
But yeah, I want to try it out. I'm going to put a script together eventually, but if I can make this work, man.
Sorry, brother. I was just going to say, did you catch that trailer? The Vin Diesel trailer for that film, I forget what it's called, with all the nanotech.
Bloodshot. Yeah, I watched the movie.
Bloodshot, yeah. What's to say you can't do that with just the power of the mind?
Well, that's one of the reasons why when I talk to my body, I want it to not only, begin to harmonize with frequency, but if I can hack nanotech, like all the nanotech that's floating around, if I can begin to absorb it and hack it and take control of it and then utilize it for myself, what's to say I can't develop in that direction where I can become like Bloodshot, where I have a nanotech armor and I have nanotech, Iron Man in Infinity War, I don't know if you've seen Infinity War. It's where normally Iron Man, his armor is like plated stuff, and in the first Iron Man, it's like this suit that he has to get into, and it's this whole process where he has to go through this thing. In the second and third one, he evolves it. It becomes like, he makes it so that it can, it makes it so that he can just like hit a button, and then it just comes flying from wherever it is, and it just attaches to him, and just and all of a sudden he's just like whoop in his armor. And in Infinity War, it turns into nanotech, so he just like hits a button, and his clothing just disintegrates into the Iron Man suit. It just becomes the nanotech just forms in a suit. And it's that's how I have the main character. The main character, that's how his nanotech works. It can become armor, it can become weapons, and that's how Iron Man works in Infinity War. Like he just like has this like gun just like shunk 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 like form on his hand, but it's the nanotech. So the gun isn't there. It's not like the gun is in his armor and it just gets deployed and pops out. The nanotech literally just reconfigures itself into the gun. And that's how I have the main character work, where the nanotech just forms. It's not there. It's not like he has a sword hidden in his arm that pops out and pops in. It's just the nanotech just reconfigures itself, just forms into the blade. It just becomes the blade. That's how I have him work. And that's how I think, that's how I'd like to, when I'm trying to like hack this nanotech, I would love to like have that happen. Like I would love to become the main character of the book. Like maybe I can like take control of this nanotech, and then that becomes like, because I know the time's coming, dude, where FEMA camps are coming and shit's coming. I know this shit's about to get fucking crazy, and I know I'm going to be left to my own devices. Like I know I imagine I might be arrested, no weapons, no nothing. I'll be forced to like be vaccinated, these things. I want to be prepared for that.
I love
You
it,
know,
brother.
what if I can turn
I
this
love
down?
it. Yes, it's turbulent times, my friend, and it's a good. Yeah, we should definitely get on that, the old script, because that's something that nothing to lose at this point, have we? It's
I
all
think
exploration.
I think a second lockdown is definitely coming. I know. I thought Boris Johnson announced that the UK was in a second lockdown, but then I was
Some
talking to
places
somebody else
are.
that
My
said
home, my
there's
home, my home country is pretty much all locked down. But they're locked down in their own towns, they're like boroughs, basically. They're all locked in their own boroughs, essentially. On the 10 o'clock, pubs shut at 10 o'clock. It's
you can still you can still go out, right? You can go to a grocery store or go to a pub. You just have to be home by like 10 or everything closes at
yeah, and
10.
you're not allowed to leave your area. So they've
Oh, you
just
can't travel.
zoned off. Yeah, they've zoned it all off, so you can't leave your borough. People can leave for work and things like that, but this is the first stage now of the zones. They're going to zone it all off. That's what they're going to do.
We don't have zones here yet. I can still travel. Like I was just able to go to Portland.
I'm
I
not
had no
sure
problem
how
flying.
stringently they're policing it, but yeah.
Yeah, I had no problem flying. And on top of that, they packed the plane. Like every seat in the plane was taken. Like there's no social distancing, nothing. Like they had us all,
Oh
yeah,
shit.
packed. They didn't give a shit. And there was nothing. The only difference it was that I had to wear a mask. That was it. There was no difference in security. There's no difference in how the airport functioned. There's no difference in anything. I didn't have to sign anything. I didn't have to answer any questions. I just had to wear a mask, and that was it. That was the only difference.